We Make Movies Film Geeks podcast, episode number 55.
Welcome to the We Make Movies podcast, making the world a better place, one film at a time. And now, here are your hosts, otherwise known as the director, the actress, and who the hell is that guy? Chad, Michelle, and Garrett.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the We Make Movies Film Geeks podcast, the podcast that's all about how to get your movie made, how to get it seen by other people, and how to get it awesome. I'm your host, Garrett Robinson, with the exceptionally deep voice today. With me, as always, faithful co-hosts Chad Kukihiko and Michelle Lucadou. We are all independent filmmakers and members of the filmmaking community We Make Movies in Los Angeles. Good morning, guys. How's it going?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You sound very sexy this morning, Garrett.
I know, right? Regular,
Super
avid
sexy.
listeners of the show will notice that we were a little bit late today. That is entirely my fault. We had
100%.
children and vomit issues. So,
I normally would have been completely gracious, but
he felt like not.
I'm not being gracious.
But yeah. So everybody have a good week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good week.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, then let's give our audience a good week and launch into the segments. We begin, as always, with community news. This week is a regular writers' workshop at We Make Movies, although there's nothing regular about it. They're all quite special, really. It happens at the Theater Asylum in Hollywood at 7:30 p.m. this Wednesday night. So if you are a Los Angelino or just happen to be in town, come on by. It as all of our events is free, and you get to hear scripts cold read by actors within the community and give critique and everything like that. That's fantastic. A little bit sparse on the community news this week.
Well, there's
You
you go. No, you.
mhm.
No, you. No, you. You, please. You.
No, you go.
It's really fun as I have a friend named you, so that gets really confusing.
That would be.
So there is a new little jiggy on our YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page, go to youtube.com/WMM Originals. And I just posted on Friday the second of a series called WMM Insider, and it's just little red carpet interviews with our folks that are filmmakers. A little insight into their film and what makes them tick and that kind of thing. So it's worth checking out.
Absolutely. Also, keep your eye on the website this weekend. We've been teasing the fact that a new website is coming. I have been given the go-ahead to take our staged site, which is basically a completely new theme and etc. So keep your eyes on it this weekend. I've been given the go-ahead to go for it. It may be me single-handedly doing it. I'm asking Eric Altman to help, but I've not heard anything back. So, but check it out. It will be interesting, and be patient.
Call him out.
I did call him out on the air, live, to all 2 viewers, or whatever, assuming there's even that many. The interesting.
That was not the
Super
sound effect I
random.
wanted, but it works.
Super random. But anyway, keep your eye on it. Should be interesting. Should be, even more importantly, much easier to kind of navigate. Please be patient the first week. It's going to take a little bit of time to get it all working the way we plan it to work. So I don't think that was English, but I think you understood what I was saying.
I was going for a sound effect that I think was
English.
actually from
Or
Kevin
they
and
could
Bean.
English.
Sorry?
Let's just all talk at the same time.
Let's
do that.
totally do that. Let's get... Actually, what we should do is get into the general news items of the weeks. Michelle, you are up
Great
first.
idea.
Why don't you tell us about what you're talking about?
Okay, I talked about this in March. Tatia Pilieva, the filmmaker who became crazy popular on YouTube with her video First Kiss, is back. And for those of you who didn't see First Kiss was basically complete strangers paired up and kissing on camera for the first time, and it was ridiculously awkward and kind of sexy and weird. And so anyway, now a lot of folks thought that it was a hoax because everyone was like pretty and modelly, but it doesn't matter. She's back. She's made another video, and they're not only kissing, they're undressing each other. Who
I'm
cares
in.
if it's a hoax? Well, right. Who cares if it's a hoax? She already has 10 million views on YouTube, and she is now the Masters of Sex promo. So
Really?
hoax or not,
Ah.
sex sells. Shocker.
Interesting.
That is
That's
that is actually I'm fascinated by that because I've seen, since Kendall production coordinates for Rhett and Link now and then, I've seen how big YouTubers are paid to do commercial ads and stuff like that. There was sorry, I punched up something on First Kiss and now I'm hearing it. Okay. Why do they do that? Why do they have videos play automatically? Like, just stop it. Anyway, what is interesting about that is that there's there's a trend of this, and I'm curious how much money goes through there. I mean, every single multi-channel network has a sort of a sales department and whatnot, and I'm curious if they're seeing sort of return on investments on those. There's this, if you've ever seen the Dog Diaries or the Cat Diaries, it's
totally
really funny, really funny YouTube. Well, a pet food company paid that person to do another round, which was really great. It was basically like a bigger cat telling a kitten, sort of giving him the ropes, and in the same hilarious, narrative, etc.
And then at the end, it was Meow Mix or whatever the hell.
Yes, exactly. But it was really sweet. I mean, in the real ones, the first ones, the ones that were unbranded, are really funny. They're really funny. But this actually also had this sort of really sweet quality to it as well that I thought was, and he didn't really.
Kiss?
No, I'm talking about this Meow Mix or whatever.
Oh, gotcha.
Meow Mix. It was like
Dog, sex, whatever.
Well, that's my point. Is that I mean, yes, kids, babies, pets, and sex. Those are like the three big things on the internet. But if you do them well and you're a YouTuber, then it's interesting because you can actually take ad dollars.
And I definitely do sex well. So yeah.
You have multiple babies. You have too many babies.
I have too many babies. Chad, what do you got for us?
Well, I could sell one of those babies for you for a small fee.
Nope.
No. Oh, you meant news items. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I thought we were. There's actually this really interesting film that is out. It's been out actually for a little bit by this Korean filmmaker by the name of Bong Joon-ho. The name of the piece is Snowpiercer. It's a sci-fi film. They probably laugh at your name too, dude.
I know.
Garrett Robertson. Oh,
that sounds like elephant penis.
It's getting worse. This is all right. Let me finish.
And
So
Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer is a sci-fi film, English language, I believe. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks. I mean, it's got John Hurt in it, Chris Evans, Tilda Swinton, Ed Harris. It looks really amazing, and it's been doing this. What's interesting is it was sort of like given up on, in a sense, like the Weinstein Company distributed it, and they kind of just handed it over to Radius TWC, which is like their smaller, lower money, like they're the ones who do the. If you've watched this show, I've been talking about Radius TWC a lot. They're the company that's based on hybrid distribution models. So anyway, it was handed over to them because they were like, oh, it's not going to make big money. But this is the thing. They put it in theaters, 8 theaters its first week. It made over $21,000 per theater. So they were like, oh, okay, this is going to do well. They released it 250 theaters the second weekend out, and it pulled in just over $1 million that second week. So they kept on. I guess they had already the track discovered for. They had already kind of planned it out. So they were doing 2 theaters, 2 weeks in theaters. What do you call it? Alone. That's it. There's exclusively. That's the word I'm looking for. 2 weeks. And then after that, they were going to release it in VOD as well. And this is the thing, though. Third week out, it's out on VOD at the same time as it's in theaters. Made $1.1 million on VOD that first week out, but it also pulled in still over $600,000 theatrically. So that's what's really interesting. And I think, as far as I can tell, this is pretty unprecedented for a film to make. I mean, and initially back in, I think, when was it? 2008 when Soderbergh did this, he released something at the same time. I think it was a little ahead of its time at the moment. I didn't really hear anything about it, which makes me think that it didn't really do so well. Because if it had done really well, we would all heard about it. But the argument at the time was that, you know, if you're not in a city where you can get it, but you were hearing about it, you can watch it on VOD, but you're going to go to the theater if you have the chance, depending on the film. Now, this film, Snowpiercer, is a sci-fi film.
So dirty.
Snowpiercer?
The sequel will be called Sand Thruster.
It looks really amazing. I wonder what
And the trilogy will wrap up with Dirt Humper. Sorry. Veronica Mars did the same theater and VOD release as well, but again, we didn't hear how it did.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of those tickets were pre-sold, though, so I don't know if, you know what I mean, they ended up making a ton. That's a whole other can of worms. I'm actually going to get into that topic in the main, in my main topic, but this is a really interesting thing, and I think that it's not as big a news as it could have been because it was such a long time ago, because we've been doing this for such a long time now, and people aren't really, but it is really interesting. It brought in, you know, it doesn't seem like a ton of money when you're in the grand scheme of things, but the fact that it didn't just kill it, that VOD didn't just kill it, is a big deal, I think, you know?
Yeah, totally. I would love to... Actually, I would love to know this data without having to do the work to research it on how the theatrical and VOD simultaneous release works. But yeah, I definitely don't want to spend the actual time it would require to figure it out.
It's not even so much a matter of time. A lot of these companies do not release their VOD numbers. It's only in situations like this where they do decent, where they will release it. You know what I mean? And you got to
but like any good investigative journalist, I have ways of figuring it out. I'm not an investigative journalist. That's just...
TheNumbers.com has all the theatrical, and that's great. You can look at that, and it tracks it by week. So in case you want to know, it's the-numbers.com in case you want to go. But the VOD is the problem. That's the hard part. Unless somebody tells you, you know, like the guy from Radius Media. I keep calling it Rudius. Unless that happens, then you're not really going to get it by and large.
Well, it's interesting, and hopefully we get more data about it soon. I'll jump into my topic. So some people have probably heard James Garner passed away. He was a very, you know, very well-known television and film actor, although, you know, he might not have been the biggest name, but like he was definitely around a lot. You saw him in a lot of things. However, honestly, I would not have known who he was off the top of my head when I heard the news. If it wasn't for when I was just a young boy, I completely loved the movie, the Mel Gibson movie Maverick, which was, you know, about a gambling, funny cowboy who didn't get into gunfights and fights all the time. He always found clever ways of avoiding them, except, you know, because it is America, at the end he ended up having to shoot a guy. And I loved that movie, and my dad was like, oh, no, you got to check out the original show. And that is where James Garner, that is what he is probably most famous for, is in the 50s, I believe it was. He was Maverick on the television show Maverick. So one day, I mean, this was back in the day, like, you know, before DVDs, that I was super into this film. But one day at some point in the future, my dad got a DVD copy of the show and showed it to me. And that was the whole focus of the show, was that he was an anti-John Wayne and an anti, you know, typical American cowboy, because he always found ways to avoid and outsmart his enemies rather than getting into a gunfight or like outsmarting them or ambushing them as they went through the pass. He was like a non-violent hero, which was kind of, I didn't even really realize it at the time that that's what it was. I just knew that I liked him more than a lot of other cowboy heroes. And now we're seeing a sort of, I think, a rising trend of that. What with the return of Doctor Who in recent years, who's a non-violent hero, the supreme popularity of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and now the new incarnation, The Legend of Korra, who are both totally non-violent heroes. And what's the other big one? I can't remember it right off the top.
Kung Fu.
Sorry?
Kane from Kung Fu. I mean, he had to fight when he had to, but...
Yeah, no,
always
there's
the
another
last
one that's really,
resort.
really popular right now, though, that I can't
Oh,
remember. But anyway, and nonviolent heroes are just they they are atypical. Normally people, superhero movies are whose face do I punch? And it is nice to get a different perspective on storytelling with guys who try to avoid that, and that was James Garner's big thing. Was he was fast, he was charming, and he was smart, and it made him, for me at least, like a much more enjoyable cowboy than the one who rode around shooting everybody in the streets at high noon. So, farewell, James Garner. Thank you very
yeah.
much for an amazing career and big life full of win.
You can't.
Interestingly enough,
You're a little young to remember, but Rockford Files also was a
Mhm.
big show when I was a kid, and
Huge.
he was fantastic in that. And I
Yeah.
I don't know whether or not he was like a nonviolent hero per se. I can't really think about it, but it was a great show. He was like, he was a giant,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
he's
knew about
a
that
big
show, but
loss.
I've never seen it. But yeah,
Interestingly
if
enough,
anybody out
like
there,
speaking of nonviolence, do you know James Garner has two Purple Hearts as well?
Oh
does he
wow, I
really?
didn't know
From the
that.
Korean War, he was injured twice and was awarded the
Wow,
Purple Heart twice, which is like really rare.
wow.
So
That's crazy.
he started
My
out
dad
on
has two
Broadway.
Purple Hearts out of no relation. Anyway, um, sorry, carry on, Michelle.
Anyway, okay. Oh, ooh, okay. I'm excited about this one. Okay, the trailer is up for the spin-off of The Conjuring. Now you guys know that I'm like a horror for horror. So and this looks balls. The spin-off is called Annabelle. And it gives the backstory of the doll that brings bad luck in the original film. So
You probably shouldn't talk to us as if we've seen it, because I have not. Sorry.
The Conjuring.
No,
Yeah,
I
you're
haven't
like,
seen it.
blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I do not know.
But
So,
Oh my goodness, you guys, what kind of geeks are you?
not
Okay.
horror.
horror geeks.
Okay,
Whoa,
I guess
what?
I
You
get to
blew
be the
me a
horror
Coke.
geek.
That was ridiculous.
Anyway, I won't give away the plot of The Conjuring or anything, but I'll just say there's a doll, and when the doll comes into the house, bad shit happens, right?
Nope.
And now, first of all, this doll is creepy. It's the creepiest thing that has ever happened. Like, it is ugly and creepy, and like, why anyone would bring this doll into your house, I don't even know. But anyway, so it
Is it
looks
like
so
Chucky?
good. So she looks like Chucky, except for she's even uglier. It's like
You
some
need to
little
burn that.
girl like
You don't
painted
bring
the
that into
face
your...
of like a porcelain doll, and anyway, so it's all creepy. And
Never.
then these new peoples. It's kind of like the prequel to The Conjuring. So these people bring this doll into their nursery. They're gonna have a baby, and then apparently completely unaware that it's a really ugly doll, and then stuff starts happening. It looks really awesome, and then these creepy people come in like, I like your dolls, and then there's blood everywhere. It's really awesome. Anyway,
Sounds like a winner. Sounds
Annabelle,
like a
it's
winner.
called Annabelle.
Excellent.
Okay.
Fun. They're doing horror movie spin-offs now. Crazy.
Crazy. So I'm going to move on then, if that's okay,
Do it.
because I had nothing really to say about that. There seems to be a really interesting trend happening right now between film festivals and their local cable networks. The Charleston Film Festival, for instance, just partnered with Xfinity to make their festival films available on demand to Charleston area Xfinity subscribers. And I think that, Sundance has been doing traveling shows. It hasn't necessarily been with cable, but there are a variety of these other partnerships going on with different film festivals around the country, and I find it very interesting. It is another means of income, I believe. Again, I don't know the deal, the specific deal that the filmmakers have, but it doesn't seem like it would be possible for the film festival to put it together without giving the filmmakers anything. So it seems really interesting. I want to see it expand, and I will definitely continue to report on it here. So there you have it.
Such a cool idea.
Yeah, right?
It seems like, why didn't someone think of this before?
Yeah,
actually?
absolutely. Yeah, because it's going online. already. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these
Yeah.
filmmakers are going to take it themselves. So why not? The film festivals. It's very smart, especially because I think film festivals already have you know large audiences. So why not? I mean, I think it's really smart. I think that more festivals should be considering this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
totally.
super
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I just was trying to think if there's like some way to like for us to do something similar, but obviously we do not necessarily have access to. Anyway,
At
it'd
the
be
it's
interesting.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to having an audience, as we've said gazillions of times here.
Yeah,
Once we have that kind of following, there's so much we'll be able to do. So that's in the meantime, we're just trying to sort
yeah.
of tread water and you know
Keep
get
things
there.
going.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll jump into my next thing. I did a, little thing this week for anybody who follows my personal YouTube channel. Aside from this one, I did a thing called Vlog a Novel this week, where I basically wrote a book live on the air. And from beginning to end, I came up with the idea and then went through the whole outlining, writing, editing, cover design process, and it was all on streaming video where you could see me and my screen on Google Hangouts, just like this one. And it was cool because I basically turned it into a bit of an interactive experience where the audience was watching, and like I honestly completely expected to have nobody watching, and maybe as I wrote the further books, like it would start to pick up an audience. But I always had at least a couple people watching, and sometimes there were like as many as 8 or 10. And it was cool because I would come to a scene in the book and go like, hey, so she meets this girl. I need a name. And people would go pop 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 pop, and I was like, I like that one. She'll be Catherine. And so like people that were watching the book be created got to name characters and places and help me determine what was going to happen in the plot and story. Not to a great degree, because like I definitely had certain opinions about a lot of things, but it's like with minor character names and things like that, I didn't really care, and I was able to hand that away. It's a different experience. It wasn't as simple as just turning the camera on and doing what I would normally do, because I was very very conscious of being on the air all the time. But it did intrigue me, and it made me want to do a thing of basically doing the same thing with filmmaking, like basically testing it out with a short film, and every aspect of it, like production meetings and design and everything like that, just kind of broadcast the whole thing, and then do an edited down version of like the behind the scenes and everything like that. But if people literally want to see everything that goes into making a film, it would it would be it would be helpful to other creators. But I think that there is a certain level of fan that just wants to literally see everything. Like if there was video footage of like every day, all day of the Lord of the Rings filming, rather than just the 16 hours that they have of behind the scenes like documentary, I would I would totally watch all that. I don't know. What do you guys think about it in terms of creating like an interactive experience with people?
I think there's definitely an audience for that. I don't know if that audience is very large or if it would. I mean, because that particular what you're talking about is a lot more than just turning on a webcam
Right.
and going. You need someone to shoot it. You need, I mean, even if it was an automatic feed, from just one camera, that's still you need a whole extra person. That person needs to pay their bills. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's
Totally.
a different can of worms, I would say. I definitely think there would be an audience for it. I just don't know if that audience would be large enough to support the cost of it.
Right, right, exactly. Because you
You know?
need, and the logistics of it, especially on a film, it, like you said, is a whole lot different. Here, I literally
Yeah.
just go click and turn my camera on.
I mean,
But
I
it
imagine
would,
if you were just wearing Google Glass, that'd
yeah,
be a different thing, because then you would still just be doing what you're doing.
It's kind of awesome.
You know,
that'd be
It
awesome.
would be kind of, that's, yeah.
even if
Yeah,
there were like a couple of people wearing Google Glass, you know what I mean, and it would just go back and just put it into even for just a couple of hours during the day. I mean, the one thing that would make it really for indie stuff, it might be cool. You have what you're probably going to start to get into with that kind of thing is rights. Let's say somebody's drinking a Coke you know, in
Yeah.
it, and then Coke is like sends you a cease and desist. That's where I think a lot of that stuff might get a little iffy. I mean, I don't know. It is
No, I think you're
definitely,
right. I think you're right.
but I think that people are interested in the process and they would like to know more about it, But I do
And it
think that.
doesn't. I don't
I
think.
think,
Go ahead.
no, I'd rather talk exactly at the same time. I think that the Google Glass idea is kind of interesting because I think that somebody could do that and then have an intern kind of, sift through the footage, make sure that there's no proprietary stuff within it, and then I think that that's a really easy way to make some really interesting stuff. But
Totally.
Michelle.
No, I agree. And I don't think it needs to be all the time live streaming. I think that potentially at the end of the day, there is a this is what we did kind of video. And I think as far as like potentially, crowdfunding kind of thing, that's definitely something that can be a perk to folks that are interested in seeing the making of the film. I know I like seeing, behind the scenes kind of stuff of anything.
Yeah.
People don't know. Like people see a jib and they're like, "Ooh, what's that? That's
Totally.
filmmaking." You know what I mean? So I think it's a great idea.
And you could do a thing you could do a thing in the middle of the video. So even if people aren't able to literally watch it live and converse while it's happening, you could do a thing where if you're meeting and you're like, okay, so you need to make a decision on a character or like one dress or another, you can just pop into the camera real quick and say, hey guys, tell us what you think and we'll go with that dress. Or find things that you are okay with them voting on, and making it that whole interactive experience, because that is the point of doing my online thing.
I tell you what I would love as a consumer. I would love to see like a day in the life of Ridley Scott from his point of view. I would love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would pay for that.
And that's the thing is that it would be a bigger and bigger thing the bigger your audience was. And no, Joe Blow, random high school student, isn't going to be interested in that. But a lot of people like us are. And again, there is that question of is it worth it? But it's not like Anyway, it's an interesting idea to try out in the future.
Yeah.
I think Joe Blow, random high school student, is your audience.
Is my audience, yeah, but I don't know
if is the audience that is going to be interested in this kind of thing and like feeling like they're involved in it, like the kid that wants to become the filmmaker.
Yeah, but that's not Joe Blow. That's like Joe Camera. You know what I mean? That's that's a different Joe, totally different Joe.
But I see what you mean. Is that of the people who would be interested in the behind the scenes stuff, the people more likely to be interested in the constant live, being able to interact online thing is the younger and younger and younger people, because a lot of the people that we're watching are like people who follow me on Wattpad, which is all teenage girls, or like whatever.
Are you like a teenage heartthrob?
I'm a little bit of a teenage heartthrob.
What?
It's the beard.
Yeah.
So let's kick into the main topics. I know we're running late on the Michelle.
Of course I am. I'm always. What's he gonna say? No. Okay. This is kind of cool. There's a new film strategy company. Bond 360 is experimenting with a sort of like distribution and filmmaker collaboration. It basically puts together award-winning films in a little bundle, and it lets the viewers name their price that they want to pay for it. So they use like a VOD platform, VHS, and I think they're pretty much creating an opportunity
VHX.
for. That's what I said.
VHS.
I said VHX.
Okay, it sounded like you said VHS, but
Whatever.
continue. We'll assume you said VHX.
I said VHX. Hey,
okay,
read it.
excellent.
And I think it's pretty much creating an opportunity for filmmakers to sell their content from their site with no middleman, which is cool. It's called Creativity Bundle. I do think they should come up with a new name because that's a little lame. But it's maybe a new way away from the like traditional method of digital distribution. So I think it's kind of cool. The statistics are actually on Bond 360's website. And the average price paid for a bundle is $6.41, which they're like around 5 films, which is, not so shabby. 25% of the customers were choosing, there's like a $1 minimum payment. But 18%, it said, were paying $15 or more for a bundle of, 5 films. So party on, $3. That's not bad. So pretty awesome. So yeah, I've read some interviews with the filmmakers, and they all seem kind of happy with the result. They're excited about the collaboration. I think it's a good idea. It's like I have a friend that has a dinner party company, and she caters a dinner party, but it's called Friends of Friends. And so these older, wealthy people pay to have a dinner party in their house, but she brings interesting, cool, weird people from different walks of life to have dinner with these people. Right? So it's like the opportunity for someone that normally likes, say, horror films to like open up their opinions to include potentially a rom-com or two or a documentary, or I don't know. I think it's a cool idea. I don't know how effective it would be, but that's the skinny.
How much do the people pay for the dinner parties? Like, I mean, for the guests. That is so crazy.
It depends on how many guests there are, but she makes a good living. Check it out. It's called Friends of Friends.
Friendsofriends.com?
I don't know if it's friendsofriends.com.
Because bond360.com is nothing. There's nothing there. It's at Bond Influence.
No, it's Bond like /360.
Oh, right. Bond. Well, yeah, something. Yeah, Bond Influence is a whole thing. Anyway, it's interesting because obviously bondinfluence.com/360 is nothing either. It's a long thing, but you have to Google it apparently. But
and by the way, it's definitely a different thing from bondageinfluence.com. Do not visit that website. Do not go there.
Wow.
Noted.
Or do. I mean, if no judgment.
If that's if that's your thing. Yeah.
Amazing.
Cool.
It's not Bond. Yeah. The company, the website is, if you want to go to it, it's creativitybundle.vhx.tv.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I'll definitely check that out. Huh? And they're new to the company. I'm curious. I'd like to maybe contact them, see how it's going.
Haven't you always been a little bit curious, Chad?
Bye.
I'm sorry. I'm just with the whiffs all over the place.
Here the stats have gone up since I looked at the website. The average price paid is now $6.43.
Oh, interesting.
Top countries: U.S., Great Britain, Canada, Germany, France.
And you're on the VHX, or where are you at?
I'm on creativitybundle.vhx.tv.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So this is where you can get your films.
I will check it out later. I don't want to waste our show time with me because I am fascinated with that. I'm a little surprised because you're kind of like that's kind of my beat, but that's fine. Whatevs.
What? Like I stole your story?
Well, it's kind of my beat, but
It's like when I start talking about like social consciousness and like the effects of public persona and everything like that. Chad's like, I am the social psychologist. Go away. This is my segment.
Do I do that?
No. Just it's like when you do a segment on the new Captain America film.
Yes, that's absolutely your beat.
Get away.
If I steal your beat? I know I'm stealing your stuff. Anyway.
Okay, Chad, go.
Sex. Porn. Okay, so this is something that I really like to do a lot is watch trailers. Like 2-3 times a month I'll find myself just kind of in the middle of a movie trailer binge on YouTube just out of the blue. I just love it and I get stuck in it, and I'll see something, I'll see like a thumbnail for something. I was like, what is this? On like red movie trailers or something like that. And then it just goes. It just keeps going because then I keep seeing these thumbnails of something that looks equally interesting. And what kind of keeps me on this roll is that I'm just seeing things that look really interesting, sometimes with really good production values, sometimes with really big actors, and I've never heard of them before. I've never ever heard. Mind you, I don't have TV. I have, I've been TV free for almost 10 years. Actually, over 9 years now, and I like it that way.
That sounds like a horrible drug.
Oh no! Off TV. No. I mean, listen. I actually watch probably more TV on my computer than I did, but right before I got rid of my TV. But it's just the cost. It's just so silly to me. Anyway, regardless of the reasons, I love watching these movie trailers, and it's fascinating how few of them I've ever heard of, and how good the production value is, how much money was spent on them. And I mean, I think there's just so many movies out there, and more than anything else, me and my girlfriend love to go see movies, and we have so little time. So we'll just oftentimes when we have the time, we'll see two at a time. Usually, last year during our anniversary, on the last day of our anniversary getaway thing, we ended up seeing three movies, I believe, that day. So it's there just isn't enough time to see all the movies that are coming out. There's so many movies coming out, and yeah, it's incredible. And this, like this Chris Evans, the Snowpiercer one with all these big people that I'd never even heard of.
Dirt Humper.
The Weinsteins who distributed it they seem to basically just want to bury it. They weren't going to bother putting money in. I mean, there are a lot of factors to why there are so many films that we're not really hearing about. The big distribution companies back in like 2013 pulled back a lot of their releases because they lost so much money in 2012, and that's still kind of going on now. But it's not like I'm seeing theaters going dark. So what's getting in there if they're not? You know what I mean? And mind you, I'm kind of a theater snob. I pretty much only go to the ArcLight unless it's a film festival and I'm forced to go somewhere else. So I don't know. And by the way, if you don't live in LA, you don't know what the ArcLight is. It's basically like the Cadillac of movie theaters. It's amazing. You buy your seat, and I always buy the same seats basically. So I'm not personally witnessing what's going on in a lot of regular movie theaters, but I'm sure if there was something besides the normal trend that's been going on for years and years, that if there was something that was a little bit more drastic, I'd be reading about it. This is kind of what I study, But my point is that we're clearly in this new niche-based world that we've been talking about. It's a different can of worms than it was 10 years ago, and I think to some degree it's like we're the frog in the pot, right? Like the things that are changing so slowly that we're barely noticing them. But it's, in my opinion, sort of my job to constantly compare where we are to where we've been. And Snowpiercer is just one example of all of these different things. I'd like to actually look really quickly at 4 different examples, not all 4 of which are we going to be able to sort of dissect completely, because 2 of them have just come out. One of them is Snowpiercer, Bong Joon-ho's Snowpiercer. Then there's Zach Braff's Wish I Was Here, Richard Linklater's Boyhood, and finally James Gray's The Immigrant. Now, if this is like the first episode of this show you've ever watched, if you've heard of even one of these shows, I would be really surprised. Maybe 2 of them. We talk about obviously a few of them as they're coming out. Boyhood, we talked about last week. We talked about Wish I Was Here over and over. But if you've never watched this show and you've heard of like 2 or even 3 of these films, you should be on this show because you're clearly a film geek. That said, each of these films has an individual story, but none of them had tens of millions of marketing dollars behind them, and yet the sort of vast chasms between their levels of success is really, really educational. That story has yet to be told with Boyhood and Wish I Was Here. And by the way, if you don't know the stories of those, please watch our past episodes when we talked about them, or just do your own research. They're fascinating stories. I mean, Boyhood is so fascinating. It was called, for the longest time, 12-year project because they've been working on it knowingly, IFC, with Richard Linklater for 12 years. They wanted to follow the progress of this boy's actual growth as an actual human being. I mean, obviously it was his character, but so that's really interesting. And it's got ridiculous rate. I think it's 99% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and 93 with regular public. Anyway, the point is that it's becoming more and more clear that finding an audience before you're even out, sometimes before you're even in production, is more important than it has ever been before, because the flood of noise that's hitting people on an ongoing basis is just getting more and more and more insane.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Absolutely.
What I have a problem. I can't. I don't know. what kind of
Set it up.
mindset does that require? I was not able to
Is
start.
what require?
I was not able to start finding an audience for myself until I had something, because I hate people who say, "Oh, I'm an author or I'm a filmmaker," who have never written anything or made a film. And yet people always talk about finding an audience before you even release your first thing or your whatever, and I'm just like, I don't even understand.
I don't think it's before your first thing.
Yeah.
I think it's before your thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Because
yeah.
the person's body is a big part of it. I mean, of all of these 4 films, Bong Joon-ho,
Mhm.
I have no idea what his following is back in Korea, but he clearly internationally they already made their money back. I mean, it's
Right.
only made like maybe at best total $4-5 million here in the U.S. It cost like nearly $80 million to make, and apparently it's already made that back internationally. So he clearly already has a mark. And by the way, I did watch Transformers, like I said I would. Because, and by the way, we were laughing our asses off the whole movie. It was so bad. It was
I'm
so,
sure.
and it was like a big commercial. But they did a couple things really smart. They had a big YouTube star whose name is escaping me right now, but he's one of the
Oh, I know who
original
you're
Maker
talking
Studios
about.
guys.
Yeah.
Big, and he had like 4 lines, but that's enough. I mean, he definitely is responsible for millions of tickets. I guarantee you he's responsible for millions of tickets. And he's funny. I mean, he's not untalented. I saw him. I'm not a big follower of his, but he did an episode of Rhett and Link. He did this music video with Rhett and Link, and he was hilarious. He was hilarious. Qasim G, that's his name. But they also shot a bunch of it in Beijing. So smart, because you know that China is going to, because of it, buy gazillions of tickets. Awful, horrible. I thought artistically, normally it would have been like the last action hero of the Transformers series. But because of all the things that they did just purely for money, there's a Bud Light commercial basically in the middle of the freaking movie. It is so they clearly made their money. Yeah, but in a lot of cases, and that's sort of also the story of Zach Braff, he had his money beforehand. And even though I think, and we've talked about the fact that he betrayed a lot of the people that gave to his Kickstarter campaign and was dishonest, and I think that that's awful. And by the way, he's really sucking on Rotten Tomatoes because of it. I mean, they do not like it. But still, he didn't really have to make a ton of money. He didn't, and whether or not he's going to get his investors' money back, I wish he had just done what. That remains to be seen. But the Greys film is probably, I think, the most educational of it. He doesn't have a name, that he doesn't have. It's not Linklater. It's not IFC. It's not, Soderbergh. It's not, you know what I mean? He doesn't have a graphic novel attached to it like Snowpiercer does. Apparently, I'd never heard of it, but apparently it does. But it's like there clearly was a lot of money spent on it. The cast is pretty ridiculous. It's got Joaquin Phoenix and some other big stars in it. Period piece. Clearly a lot of money was spent on it. But in whatever the 2 months that it's been out, it has barely made like $2 million in domestic box office. Does not appear to have any kind of international. And just this past Monday they put it on Netflix Instant. And so you know that it's not going to make a lot of money off of that. I mean, I don't know how much Netflix paid for it, but there's no way it made its money back. And I think part of that is in answer to your question. I mean, I'd never heard of James Gray. I mean, maybe he's big in certain circles, clearly not circles that are big enough to pay for this film. Joaquin Phoenix, yes, is a name, and I'm sure that a lot of the other cast members in it are names. But Weinstein's didn't, they're the distribution company. They clearly didn't think that there was enough to sink some more money into it. So they just did what they did and are just making what they can off of it. So it's, I don't know if that answers your question, but I mean, the thing is that you cannot think of your films anymore. You cannot think of your projects, whatever they are, as one-offs. You have to think of them as, like with my film, I wrote it specifically for Charlie Capon, which, by the way, I noticed like you got the most hits of it looks like any of your hits on your YouTube channel from the one episode that you did with him.
Yeah, I think it's either that one or the fangirling one, but that was nice.
Yeah, when I wrote it for him, was not a big blogger yet, but I don't. Now it's getting hard to kind of talk to him and meet with him because he's come kind of a bigwig at the moment. Has a hell of an audience, and so it's so that's all of this stuff has to come into the thing. How can you break through the noise? Has to be,
Right.
And I think that like the Transformers, as much as I hate to say it, as much of a gigantic turd the film is, they, in terms of making money, did smart things. Putting the commercials in the middle of the film, putting it in Beijing,
Yeah.
bringing in Qasim G. You know what I mean? They're just throwing these bones out like it's.
And that's the thing, is that the studios are getting smarter and smarter at doing things so that no matter what, even if the American audience trashes it or the critics trash it or whatever, they're still going to make their money because that is so very much the focus.
But the same can be true for us.
Do you think they knew before? They're like, this is going to be a big turd of a movie.
Oh God, yes. I mean, there's
And then
no
they were
way.
like, let's put a bunch of shit in it.
Well, you
to
hear
get some
about
money.
you hear about brands trying to pull that crap all the time when you get product placement, but never do you really succumb to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rarely do you turn it into an actual like Bud Light commercial right in the middle of your. You know what I mean? Like yes, as they made it, I'm sure that they knew what they were doing. It's Aaron Kruger. I mean, Aaron Kruger wrote he's a good writer. I mean, yes, he's done all of these Transformers, but so have Kurtzman and Orsi together, So it's good writers, just like good actors will go out and do crappy things for money. It is what it is. I don't judge them, and I have to see it just because I knew I was going to laugh my ass off at how ridiculous it was.
Apparently the dialogue, I haven't seen it, but apparently the dialogue was just off the charts terrible.
And the costuming, I want to beat up whoever did the costuming. I just want to just take them into an alley and just kick their ass because it is so like this. The hot daughter is like constantly in these super, like, you can't even call those shorts. It's insane. It's clearly. It's like model. It's just so ridiculous. It's just.
And then you like wonder what the tipping point into like cult classic is. Like when does it get to be The Room? You know what I mean? When are people watching it?
Speaking of, have you seen his trailer for his new sitcom?
No.
Yes. I forget what it's called, but somebody put it on my Facebook wall. I was like, oh my God. My friend Keith Turner put it on my Facebook wall. It is a mess. And it is so bad and it's going to be just plain bad because he's clearly trying to be funny this time. And it's not. It's, oh my God. It's a stinker. But anyway, continue. Sorry, I sucked up a lot of time. I know you got a boogie on.
Well, yeah, I'll wrap up with my main topic, which is something that I got into a conversation with a friend of all of ours, David McCullough, this week. We were talking about books, and we were talking about and don't worry, Chad, this isn't going to get into dangerous territory for us, but we were talking about George R. R. Martin and how it's like 5 years in between books is most of the time, or is it longer? It's at
least like 5 books, man. It's 5 years. It's insane. Yeah.
It's great lengths of time, and then Patrick Rothfuss is one of the biggest new fantasy writers to come out in the last decade. He wrote a book called The Name of the Wind, and then followed it up with The Wise Man's Fear, and there's going to be a final book that wraps up the trilogy, and it's going to be releasing. Like, we have no idea. And everybody's waiting for it. David and I talk about it every month or so. We're like, when is it coming out? There's still no release date, blah, 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 blah. And the same thing used to happen with, what do you call it?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, to a lesser degree, because she was pretty good. Only the last book took a couple of years, and other than that, it was all
nothing compared to Martin.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And but
there's
the other
a
one was
website called Release the freaking book. I mean, I'm that's not the actual.
Right.
It's not .com, but that's the title of it. Is Write the Damn Book, George, or something.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a thing. It's part of the Game of Thrones fandom that you're like, next book. Oh, it's so long. Like, that's just part of the whole package. But and we were talking about this. And how, I mean, there's, first of all, that relationship where you're basically just like, give us the book, write faster, what are you doing? That's slightly problematic, and Neil Gaiman wrote a very excellent article about it one time, where the article title is literally "George R. R. Martin is not your bitch," and it's going on. It just explains that.
This is going to be the title of today's Film Geeks.
And he just says, listen, I understand that you want the next book, and I understand that it's a very good series. I love the series as well, but he is not beholden to you. He is not, by you reading and loving his book, you have not, there has not been created a contract, official or unofficial, that he must do nothing else but write this book for you. He has a life. If he chose to stop writing the series, that would be his right. I don't think it would be very wise of him, but you can't act like he's like he owes you something. That's not the right way to go about things. And I agree with both of those statements. I think that it is kind of silly not to keep people, like, for me, as you know, with my podcast and my vlog and everything like that, I keep people constantly updated on what's happening with stuff. And I think that is smart, and like I sort of wish that he would do that and would, but he has the total right to do it or not to do it as he chooses to do. But more broadly, we transitioned our discussion into film and how this phenomenon is very rare in film. And in fact, the only clear-cut example that we could think of was George Lucas with Star Wars. But other than that, if people want the next Mission Impossible or the next James Bond, we don't have a single individual that we assign all of that responsibility to. And now we don't have Lucas for Star Wars. Like, after the prequels, and everybody was like, oh my God, shitastic, da-da-da-da-da. We were like, he should try and get some good filmmakers together and make 7, 8, and 9 just to get the bad taste out of our mouths. But it was all of this focus on the franchise, and it was all on George Lucas. But other franchises don't really have this relationship. You know what I mean? Like when
that's appropriate, because I mean, when you're a writer, it's not like you can share the responsibilities with other people. You got to go into that room and write.
Right, exactly. But the thing is that I how do I say this?
To me,
I
to me,
would
the
love
real
to.
story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real story behind this is not even so much that. Is not even so much that it's weird that it doesn't cross over. What is the real story is kind of related to what you talked about before when you saw the crazy fans at what's it called, World VidCon, yeah. Because it was I was going to say VidWorld or something. It's I think that there's, and you're right, I think that to some degree it's also the particular fandom right. Of that the fandom is based on sort of the vibe of the overall star, and I think that there are a lot of weird. I think that hopefully is kind of changing over time. I hope that the sort of this cult of personality concept that people have in general with right. their stars, the people that they follow, starts to dissipate and get less creepy. Yeah. But it's not about to vanish overnight, and I think that is really what you're to some degree talking about, because I think that I've been a fan of George R. R. Martin since I first discovered his books back in 2000, and I've witnessed a lot of what you're talking about, but everything that I've seen has been mostly good-humored. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen anyone actually being like, I'm serious, I'm going to come kill you. Like, no, none of it's like that. I think most of it is just like, holy crap, dude, really? No one else takes this amount of time. And I think that, but by and large, I think it is good-humored. But yeah. I'm sorry, I think that anyway, that's the real story behind what you're talking about, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. But the question that I have is, if you don't fuck it up with the 3 worst prequels in the history of prequels, would it be a good thing to cultivate a personality-based thing. Would it be more beneficial to you as a filmmaker to become a George Lucas with a major franchise where people rely on you to be like Peter Jackson with The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit? Kind of the same deal. It's like yes, we know Warner Brothers is involved and there's the studios and everything like that, but it's like, Peter Jackson, do The Hobbit, make it better. You know, we don't like the green screen, like that kind of.
I think we'll have to leave this open. We don't have enough time to really delve into this question.
Shoot. Yeah, we've run way over. Sorry, Michelle.
So I think we have to go into things to know.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, but that is, if you are watching this and you want to answer that question for yourself, please feel free on the comment chain.
Yes.
Yes.
And go ahead, Michelle. What do you got?
I have something to know. We Make Movies is collaborating with 3 clubs in a film screening series, which is going to start September 21st. And we're going to be screening 3 films, Way Down in Chinatown, which is a feature that's We Make Movies adjacent, a film called Harmful Sensations, it's a short, and then there's another that's going to be TBA. And what's fun is we're going to be pairing these films with a kick-ass band. So you come in, you watch some films, you hear some music, you drink some stuff, it's awesome. So we're going to do it once a month. So September 21st is going to be the first one. And then we have some kick-ass stuff that's going to be happening in October. We've already confirmed Travis Betts, who's this awesome, brilliant filmmaker in one of his creepy films.
Really nice.
Our Halloween-themed. Yeah, a great guy. For our Halloween-themed screening. So, yeah, drop on by September 21st, 3 clubs on Santa Monica and Vine.
I will blow through mine because I have actually a couple different topics to discuss in my things to know. If you've been following the show and back in late March, early April, saw the Hula app controversy that got me all riled up, you will be pleased to know that the name is now officially changed to Health Fauna. It is no longer Hula. It is now officially Health Fauna, and I'm very pleased that Mr. Bastani has changed the name. It's an app that actually has a really good cause, despite the awfully offensive name that it used to have. And now that the name is actually a good name, I genuinely hope that adoption for this app really takes off and that the app is able to help as many people as possible. 2 other super quick things. I'm very excited to be shooting a film called Steps from Chase Block and Will Ropp this upcoming weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. More on that later. Obviously, it's just in pre-production at the moment, so it's going to be a while before we're in post and a long time before you'll see anything. And then finally, a sketch that I directed by Jeff Bauer, one of our better writers, is up for its 2nd week now in this ongoing sort of video fight club on Sam Proof's thing. It's neck and neck right now with the other short and the other sketch that it's fighting, and I dare say it's, I think, much better than the other short. I'm not just saying that. Check it out for yourself and vote on whichever. Vote your conscience. But go to samproof.tv/fight club, video fight club, samproof.tv/video fight club, and vote for Pappy and Slappy if you think it's funnier.
Huzzah. My thing to know is a little self-plug. As I mentioned earlier, I did vlog a novel this week. I wrote a book. It is available for sale. You can search it out on Amazon or on my site. It is called Nightblade. So if you just look for Nightblade, Garrett Robinson, you should be able to find it. And you can buy it directly from me via my site, which, of course, I would be a big fan of you if you did that. And with that, I will call an end to this episode of the We Make Movies Film Geeks podcast. Thanks, Chad, Michelle. Always wonderful to do these. We'll see you next Sunday at 11 a.m. Unless, again, my children start throwing up. I'm Garrett Robinson. You can find me at garrettbrobinson.com. Michelle is on Twitter at mlucadoo, and you can find Chad at superfreako.com. Goodbye.